Welcome again, everyone, to Ferris Sports Update. I'm your host, Rob Bentley, and thanks for tuning in. On today's show, we'll talk Bulldog hockey, and we'll check in with men's and women's basketball as we recap rivalry weekend here in Big Rapids. First up, head coach Bob Daniels with the Ferris State Bulldogs. And Coach, congratulations on what happened this past weekend, an emotional series against the Western Michigan Broncos.
It sure was an emotional series, and you started off the show here by talking about rivalry weekend, and I know for basketball it was the case, and certainly for hockey it was definitely the case. Over the last few years, we really developed a pretty good rivalry with Western Michigan, and I think a lot of it's been brought on by the fact that both teams, as of about the last 4 years or so, have resided in the upper half of the standings. And when both teams are going good, and we've seen to play each other just about 4 times every year, some playoff series tossed in there, that's the recipe. Inside of 2 hours apart, that is the recipe for a really good games and hard-fought series.
Unfortunately, the Bulldogs lose the opener 3-1 on Friday night, but you come back on Saturday, ends up in a 2-2 tie, and you pick up the extra point in the shootout. Just how important were those points? Yeah,
they're very important. We obviously on Friday night were disappointed with the outcome of that game, losing 3-1. You got to give Western Michigan a lot of credit. They really played well, in particular in the third period when I think we only got 4 shots on net, and we were only trailing by a goal to start, and we just couldn't seem to, we seemed to be chasing the puck all night long. And then the next night there was a lot of pressure on us, and a lot of action in that game, but for us those 2 points mean an awful lot in the standings.
As we go to the highlights of Friday's game, Western, I know you've mentioned in the past one of the top teams in the conference and in the nation, and off to a good start, but your team was able to battle right back with a goal from Garrett Thompson.
Yeah, we were. I think they score first, if I remember right, then we come back with a power play goal to tie the game. In the power play was one thing on the weekend I thought we really looked good on. We got a power play goal each night, but I felt as though we could have scored even more goals in the power play. Here you see the goal by Garrett when he walks out of the corner, and really a great shot by him. But our penalty kill too I thought was very good all week, and I liked the way our special teams performed.
You also had some guys that were able to come back this past weekend off of injuries, and how important was it to have some of those guys back in the lineup?
Very important, it really was, and we're still trying to work Kersinger back into game shape and get him going. We get Zarnowski back, but then we lost him again on the game Saturday night. He's out indefinitely. I really feel bad for Scott Zarnowski. He started off with a knee injury, then a shoulder injury, another shoulder injury, and now an upper body injury, if you will, and I just really feel for the kid. He keeps battling to come back, and we're talking about pretty major injuries here.
Obviously, some great fan support again this past weekend, and Saturday's game, a sellout crowd again, and just a great environment for college hockey.
Well, Saturday's game was really, not only it was a sellout and a great crowd, and we've had great crowds all year, but that crowd they were into the game. Boy, they came, and I thought they really gave us a lift, especially late in the game when we tied it up. But what an energetic crowd, and I think it was a combination of the crowd being into it and the game being really hard fought and exciting, and then it's about as loud as I've ever heard that rink, and I've heard it loud over the years, but that's about as loud as that rink's ever gotten.
As we go to the highlights of Saturday's game, coming back after a tough loss on Friday night, the Bulldogs come out, you strike first on Saturday, first goal of the year from Matt Kersinger.
Yeah, it is, and it's good to see him back, and when we get to it, catch up with it in the highlights here, it'll be momentarily, you're going to see it's a great shot by Matt, and here it is quite a ways out, but Andy Huff did a great job of screening the goal. He's right where he's supposed to be, right in front of the goaltender, so he can't see it. And Andy Huff, even though he didn't get an assist on the goal, very well should have.
C.J. Mott with a big save, and he made some big saves again here in this contest.
Yeah, he did, and you can see it's a little bit physical around him. He got run into a few times over the course of the weekend, but he really played well. So did their goaltender, Frank Slabowski. I thought both goaltenders had, coming into the weekend, they're 2 of the top goalies in the league, and it was easy to see why. Now we had a 1-goal lead here, about 6 minutes to go in the game, and they got on a 5-on-3 and an extended 5-minute power play, scored twice. All of a sudden we find ourselves down, and here's a tying goal by Kyle Bonus. He had a great game, and you expect your leader, your captain, to score in big moments, and he did. Right here in overtime, you see him hitting the goal post, and now we're into the shootout. And of course, here's Corey Kane scoring on our first shot, and then eventually Kyle Bonus scores again to give us the win in the shootout.
Bulldogs with that extra point in the shootout, always important to pick up those points, whether it's a tie or a shootout victory. Always important to get those extra points.
It really is, and you know, it's funny how you look at these things. In shootouts, when we lose, I just say, it was a tie. You know, we don't even acknowledge the fact. And then when we win the shootout, it goes out of my book as a win. So I'm biased that way, but I hate the shootouts when we lose, and I love them when we win. And certainly this extra point, it might make a big deal in terms of playoff seeding as we move forward in the season.
Obviously a rivalry against Western Michigan, and 33 penalties called on the night, and an intense game. But talk about your team being able to battle back from some of that adversity after those penalties to pick up that tying goal.
Sure. Well, you know, both teams got their share of minutes that night. I don't know if we had 51 to their 46, and that's a lot of minutes. We're only averaging going into the game 13 minutes a night. So obviously for both teams, and I think they're only averaging 12. So for both teams, it was unusual. And I think, you know, it shows how important this, the games are right now, and it shows where the rivalry is. And you don't like to see that. I appreciate getting right up to that line of being a hard-fought game. I don't like when that line gets crossed and you end up with the penalties that we had in that game. But I certainly do appreciate the intensity that both teams brought to the arena that night.
This week, the Bulldogs back on the road, and for the third straight season, you head to Marquette to take on the Northern Michigan Wildcats, and kind of unusual on the part of the conference scheduling. But just talk about this week's opponent, Northern Michigan.
Sure. Well, first, you're right though about this. I don't remember the last time Northern was in our rink. You know, it seems like we're always heading up there. It's a quirk of the schedule, but no, Northern Michigan's a good team, and they've been hot as of late. They've got excellent goaltending. They're well coached by Walt Kyle. It seems like over the years, every time we go up there, the games are 2-1, and I would expect this to be no different. And I think they've had a little bit of an injury, plagued by injuries this season as well. So, you know, both teams, I think, have similar paths to where we're at this year.
Next week, after this weekend's series against Northern Michigan, the Bulldogs back at home, and what will represent the final CCHA regular season series against Bowling Green State, and should be another great weekend for hockey fans.
Yeah, it will be. It'll be senior night on the Saturday against Bowling Green. I think that's a 5 o'clock start. It's going to be on Fox Sports Detroit as part of the Celebrate Hockey in Michigan weekend, and we're part of a doubleheader. I don't know who's got the second game on Fox, but we also have a skate with the Bulldogs to follow. But, you know, as I reflect, you wonder where the season went. To think here we are already, and, you know, sometimes when it feels like it's been a long year, but then you get to this point, you think, my God, did that fly by quickly? And that's always kind of an emotional weekend, too, for myself and the rest of the coaching staff as we say goodbye to the seniors. And you talk about time going quickly, you wonder where those 4 years went. You know, you look at those guys and you remember the recruiting processes. And anyways, it's a great weekend. Well,
Coach, best of luck this weekend as you head to the Barry Event Center in Marquette to take on Northern Michigan, and looking forward to that final home series next weekend.
Thank you, Rob.
We'll be back with more Ferris Sports Update right after this.